Portable gaming has been a part of my life for a very long time, just not in the way that many others experienced it. As a kid, I didn't really know much about portable gaming beyond my dad's iPhone 4 that he let us install games on sometimes, and my trusty laptop. Beyond that, the world of portable gaming was completely foggy and dark. I wouldn't understand for a long time. Not until 2016, when my dad would buy me and my older brother Nintendo 3DS consoles. A Nintendo 2DS for me, and a new Nintendo 3DS XL for my older brother. And while my older brothers didn't come with any games, mine did, and the subsequent road trip that we had after we got the 3DSs, we spent it playing matches of Mario Kart 7 and playing co-op Mario 3 on Virtual Console. That entire summer is filled with some of my fondest memories in gaming. The Nintendo 3DS was and still is an important part of my life as a gamer, as a creator, and as a person, as is the DS through backwards compatibility. I've discussed the 3DS's impact on me before on this channel, but I wanted to go deeper into the experience of having the consoles, both from the outside looking in and the inside looking back. It's 2016 and my family was getting ready for a road trip into the United States, specifically to Orlando, Florida. Now, my family and I had gone on many road trips before, and my older brother and I would always pack our laptops when we went out for these super long trips, and we'd play games on our computers like the Fancy Adventures World 2, Angry Birds, and the like, all through the Chrome Web Store. But that was then, now it's 2016. And my parents had decided they wanted us to have a different way for us to be entertained in the back of a car, and so they went out and bought me a Nintendo 2DS and my older brother a new Nintendo 3DS XL. My 2DS, as with many others, came with Mario Kart 7 as a download code on the Nintendo eShop. My older brother, however, didn't get any games with his console. That summer vacation was filled with cramped legs, sightseeing like cramps, and playing as much of Mario Kart 7 as I possibly could. There wasn't much else to do in the car besides watching a movie that was on loop forever, so my 2DS filled the void where there was nothing else to do. I've talked about Mario Kart 7 before on this channel, and I've spoken positively of it before, but its impact on this road trip was really important to me. My experience with racing games that boiled down to just a Need for Speed franchise, Burnout Paradise, and games like Joyride Turbo on the Xbox 360, where holding down the triggers was your main form of acceleration. But Mario Kart 7 was a whole new beast, in that I had to hold down the A button now to accelerate, which on those original 2DS buttons meant that I was shoving down those buttons as hard as humanly possible in order to go faster. It doesn't do that. That's not how that works. My fingers, by the end of a Grand Prix, would have the A button essentially molded down into my thumb. Fun times. The variety in tracks allowed me to enjoy running through any of the old returning tracks or the original tracks, and NACC has the best version of Rainbow Road in my humble opinion, do not at me, and it had infinite replayability. Kinda had to for that summer because it was the only game it had for a while, so I'm glad it did. One time when we stopped at a Walmart, my mom said that she'd buy a game for the two of us, since my older brother still didn't have a game by that point in time, and that is when I got Phineas and Ferb Quest for Cool Stuff on DS, since I was a fan of the show. I kind of disregarded it at first, since it just kind of looked like shovelware. I was 100% misusing that term, but again, there wasn't much else to do in the car besides play the games I already had on my 2DS. And by games I mean game. So I asked my mom to get it. She gave me a look and went, "Are you sure you want to buy this? It doesn't look like it'll work with your system." And I went, yeah, Mom, of course it works with my system. See, I said this, but I had no idea if I was even right. I was just talking out my ass, and my mom probably wouldn't buy me another game if I was wrong, so I kind of just had to run with it. As I got into the car, I anxiously popped the game into my 3DS, and I got to play it. That was my first introduction to the 3DS's backwards compatibility, which was one of my earliest experiences with that type of technology. Since I wasn't around for the DS generation, this was my way of experiencing the humongous library that the DS had. We'll discuss that a bit more later, but for now, Quest for Cool Stuff. Honestly, for a licensed kids game, Quest for Cool Stuff it's alright. It's bare bones and it's the most basic platformer for kids, but it's fun for what it is. I've been playing the 3DS version, which is a slight bit different from the OG DS version that I played ages ago, but besides that, it was a pleasant turn off your brain experience. Nothing too exciting in the current year, but If you ported it to the Switch, it would fit right in with the other kids' games on that system. At some point during the middle of a vacation, my older brother happened to get a 3DS eShop card, and with it, he bought Super Mario Bros. 3 on Virtual Console. Fun for him, but also fun for me because this game had download play functionality, and oh my god, I want to talk about it in more detail because download play is the single greatest invention by man. Edison could never. Tesla, nah, never. Download play has given me so many amazing memories of playing games with my siblings, with friends, and with people all over the place. Local, wireless gameplay, only requiring one game cart. Your friends didn't need the game, just you, and those guys could play with you. Actual banger of a concept that was originally introduced on the Nintendo DS and was brought back to the 3DS for another run. Some games would have a downside like Mario Kart 7 keeping download play racers to just play as Shy Guy, but other than that, get the boys together, boot up Tetris Ultimate or Cooking Mama 4, just get them to join through download play. And it's not just relegated to 3DS games either, since obviously the 3DS has DS backwards compatibility, it's got the ability to download play Nintendo DS games as well. I have so many memories with either me or my brother getting a DS or 3DS game, learning it had download play, and just spending hours playing whatever we had available to us. It was a magical time, and it's a feature that I wish was much more commonplace on most modern gaming systems. As the summer wound down and the September pulled into my view, my 2DS became just another console in the house. My siblings would eventually get their own DSs for their birthdays and I'd play with them on occasion, but it was an outlier in the grand scheme of my life. My eyes were bound to that brand new Nintendo Switch system that had only been teased by that point, and I desperately wanted it. I would talk about it with my friends during recess. I was so hyped for that console. But when I asked my parents for it when it eventually got revealed, they essentially said to me, "You already have a Nintendo console. I'm not dropping $400 on this." And you know, can't really argue with that. So I was stuck with a 2DS throughout junior high and high school. And I didn't really have a lot of games for it by that point of 2016. Mainly just a lot of free stuff on the eShops since I didn't have money. So I never really brought it out for anything. Most I would do was just go to my local mom and pop game store in the mall and just stare at the games. Wouldn't even buy them most of the time. But one day, I went in there with a little bit of cash. Well, not me, my older brother. We went in there with a little bit of cash, and we saw a little game cart, a loose one. And we grabbed that one. And that's how I got to experience one of my favorite 2D platformers on the DS, Sonic Rush. Sonic games by that point had an extremely special place in my heart. My favorite reviewer on YouTube was Some Call Me Johnny, who I had gotten into through his Sonic reviews. I was very much aware of the fanbase, and I had played Sonic Generations for ages beforehand. So seeing Sonic Rush in my local game store was exciting, to say the least. So my older brother bought it, and he played it for ages. I would steal the game from him on occasion, but it was his game, not mine, so my experience with it is a little more recent. Nonetheless, 2D Sonic-wise, this is a wonderfully crafted game, and I love it to bits and pieces. By introducing the boost formula for the first time, placing it with some absolutely baller level design and theming, and making good use of the dual screens to extend the action in every moment, Sonic Rush is able to strike a pretty nice balance of having exhilarating high speed moments and slower moments like the older Genesis games, while also having extremely interesting bosses to fight and special stages that I love, especially in Colors DS, which I would play about a year later. Sonic Rush wasn't my only big game of 2016, I was also getting into the world of Nintendo's Virtual Console. During the summer of 2016, my brother had gotten a Virtual Console game, specifically Mario 3, and I finally got to experience it for myself later in the year. Virtual Console wasn't my first introduction to emulation. I had been using emulators since at least 2014, but it was my first experience using it on a handheld and I loved it. Virtual Console is just one of those services that you look back on with such good memories. It was just that good, especially on a handheld no less. Hundreds of games spanning multiple systems, easy to just quickly jump in and play. And most importantly, it was really cheap. You could snag a Game Boy game for like $5 and that could be your interesting game for the weekend. By the time I was looking for games to play after that summer was over, the Virtual Console was pretty damn plump with good quality games. I mean, some of them I couldn't play because they were new 3DS exclusive, but they were always cool to see. However, the folly of being a child with a game console is that it's going to take forever to get a new game to play on your system. Unless you had an allowance or your parents just bought you games all the time, you'd have to make do with what you had, which oftentimes was a game that you'd gotten bored of, a game that you finished, or in some cases, a game you fully completed start to finish 100%ed. And that was a situation I found myself in constantly after that summer was over. I'd get games from time to time, but honestly, my thirst for more things to play on my system became too much to comprehend. Which is where our favorite sentient shopping bag comes into play. I'm talking about the 3DS eShop, every Nintendo kid's favorite window shopping experience. The 3DS eShop has a lot of sentimental value to me. I window shopped a lot on that damn service. Again, I was a child without money, so it was mainly just a bunch of trying to find the most free stuff I could get that would be fun for me for that specific weekend. On occasion, I'd go in there with an eShop card and I'd go... I can't really say I'd go ham, I'd just like buy a virtual console game and a cheap 3DS exclusive or something. But I wouldn't come back to the eShop for the game demos and exclusives and the virtual console. No. I'd come back for that music. I am in love with the rotating 3DS eShop music, from May 2015's Chill Tones to June 2011's Mall Elevator Vibe, and a Mitomo/Tomodachi Live inspired feel in September 2013. All of these songs combined led to a wonderful shopping experience that was just really hard to put down. I would spend hours on the eShop, window shopping for ages, and just dreaming of what I could buy there. You know, nowadays I just do the same thing on the Switch eShop, but now I can actually buy the game because I have a credit card. But when the eShop failed me, I always had the built-in software to help me out. Games like Face Raiders, the AR cards that I 1000% lost, I have no clue where to find them, and my personal favorite, StreetPass and Mii Plaza. Shit, I forgot to talk about StreetPass. Alright, so your 3DS, right? It emits a small little signal waiting for another 3DS to pick it up. And so you go outside with your 3DS in sleep mode, and it would emit that signal until that signal is picked up by another 3DS. If that happened, then congratulations, and you have just StreetPassed, where your 3DSs did a tiny bit of handshaking of information, and that's it, you would leave. That exchange of information would then lead to some rewards in select 3DS games, and would allow you to play the games in one of the pre-installed 3DS softwares, Mii Plaza. Mii Plaza was essentially a large collection of mini games that revolved around you being close with your friends and every person you StreetPass with. It's framed as if you've got a whole group of people in a little plaza that you've rented out for the day, and it creates a connection between you and the person you StreetPass with. And with the gate feature, it gives them a vibe of getting an invite to a place to hang out with just one person, but you're never going to probably see again. The games in Mii Plaza really emphasize this connectivity vibe they were going for by basically locking you out until you have friends to do stuff with. So you'd have to go outside to go get some passes, and then you could come back. But it was so worth it, let me tell you. Find Me, Puzzle Swap, Market Crashers, Battlegrounds, all of the minigames in Mii Plaza were something that were captivating to me as a younger person, and that again clicked perfectly with the sense of connectivity from across the world vibe that Mii Plaza was trying to sell to you. Puzzle Swap in particular really does this vibe perfectly in my opinion. The Mii Plaza obviously wouldn't be what it is without the Miis though, and the 3DS's Mii Maker is a well put together improvement of the original version that we saw on the Nintendo Wii. The dual screen of the 3DS gives the Mii Maker here a distinct feel in comparison to the Wii, with a lot more options to customize your character. I unfortunately don't have many memories of a Mii Maker on Nintendo 3DS, but we had those memories, and to be frank, I didn't fuck around with the Mii Maker here to make abominations, so let's move on. Besides all of the above, the 3DS's biggest impact on me was allowing me to try out genres of games that I didn't really think I'd enjoy before, namely RPGs. Not Pokemon, I wasn't really into Pokemon. I'm still not big on it at my age, but I at least gave it a good swirl before disregarding it. However, while Pokemon didn't keep my interest, Yokai Watch did. Yokai Watch structures itself as the archetypal RPG, with bosses to defeat, side quests to check off, all the stuff you expect. The way they change up these archetypes is through the battle system, which is completely different from the normal turn-based fight system that you might be used to with other RPGs. Instead of choosing the attacks for each character, you spin a wheel and your party will do attacks completely on their own. You know, if they choose to do so. One yokai could loaf around, basically wasting valuable time that the yokai could be using to attack. In my opinion, this mechanic, while a little annoying, is integral to keeping the player on their toes. It forces you to reconsider what trio of yokai you put out there on the battlefield, and which ones you put to the back so you can heal them. During battle, your yokai can do what's called a ultimate, which is the equivalent of a final smash. Big attack, massive damage. It does need to be charged, however, which incentivizes not just spamming one specific ultimate. The entire vibe of Yokai Watch is extremely charming. The sense of the spooky is still here, but it's not to a ginormous amount, which you would expect from a game about Japanese yokai. In fact, the designs of every yokai are much more welcoming and less about alienating the player. They're less presented as spooky spirits that'll do actual damage and are right outside your window, and are mostly presented as funny spirits that just want friends because they're lonely or because you decided to help them out. It's not all of them, mind you, but it's a majority of them. The way that yokai present themselves in battle, the way the protagonist walks around in the game world, the way the characters talk, it all comes back to the idea of what if we made the supernatural cute and simplistic? And for the most part, it works. Characters don't just feel like hollow vessels to spout exposition from. They feel like they've been living there long before you downloaded the game, yokai especially. Yokai Watch is a great entry-level RPG for people who don't know much about RPGs. But for people who know a lot about the genre, or people who are really good with games, it's basically like a little brother. It's annoying at points, but you can't help but love its charm and wit. Up until this point, my experience with online gaming had been relegated to playing Roblox on my shitty laptop. I had only ever gotten Xbox Live Gold for a month at the maximum, and that was so I could get the free games of gold that they used to offer. Nintendo Network was my first true online experience. The matchmaking, the Mario Kart 7 matches, the friend codes that I still do not understand why Nintendo used these here and still uses them. Just please use your usernames. Oh my god. And most importantly to me, the connections I made with friends. Download Play would give me a lot of memories of playing with friends, but this network was no slouch, let me just say. I have memories of ringing up my friends on Discord, getting them a Mario Kart 7 code, and just running some matches before we all had to go to bed or something. And on occasion, I just run Mario Kart 7 online by myself, racing with whoever I could find. And so, I grew up with the system as my main gaming device. I learned more about the gaming world at large, but that 2DS would mostly just sit around most days during the school year. I'd pick it up on occasion, but with my siblings or just on my own, but it never got anywhere nearby the level of a daily driver for me. And to be honest, I didn't have that many games, so I didn't really have much of a reason to pull it out on the playground or anywhere for that matter. It was just a paperweight on my desk. Until I made a discovery. By 2019, I was in the 8th grade, still trying to figure out what to do with my old 2DS. My friends in junior high who were Nintendo heads had a Switch already, so they obviously couldn't play Mario Kart with me. But a new development in my life would change how I saw my 3DS, and it has to do with this Wii. It'll make sense like when I explain it. Anyway, my older brother had just fixed up a family friend's old Wii, and he didn't really want it in his house anymore, so we just gave it to my family. It was cool for everyone in the house at first, until bit by bit the rest of my family began to fade away from it. We had an Xbox already. It didn't really make too much of a difference in our lives, but I still cared about it, and as such, since no one else did, it essentially became my Wii, and I could do whatever the fuck I wanted with it, which was hold on, I'm gonna go. Okay, so I had fuck all to do on that Wii. The Wii Sports disc that the family friend had given us was unfortunately scratched, so I couldn't play that. I could only do most of the built-in software on the Wii, which wasn't a lot. So the Wii just kind of sat there in the entertainment center gathering dust. But during the latter half of 2019, for lack of an actual story, because I cannot be asked to remember it, I homebrewed my Wii. And that was cool. I had fun with that for a while. And then I had a thought, and the eyes of that child who had just learned what homebrew was slowly began to focus on the 2DS on his desk, collecting dust. And sure enough, there was homebrew software for the 3DS, and all it needed was my SD card. So after an hour, EA Sudoku from DSiWare, and a little patience, I had a homebrewed 3DS in my hand. Now what do I do with it? Honestly, I struggled with that for a bit. I messed around with the themes and stuff, but nothing really stuck out to me for a while until I got to the homebrew emulators. We got the classics like SNES, Genesis, GBA, the works, but what stuck out to me the most was the one, the only, Twilight Menu by Rocket Robs. This technically isn't an emulator, it's just using the DS's backwards compatibility. Remember all that and how I missed out on a bunch of the DS's library? Well, this was my chance to finally give those games a try. And I tried some DS games, beginning with Mario Kart DS. I've talked about this in a short, but Mario Kart DS wasn't a big part of my life like it was for many of you watching. But the content of Mario Kart DS is what drew me in to finally play it. The missions, the multiplayer, the courses, the customization, the replayability. It is, in my opinion, one of the most content-dense Mario Karts I think they've ever made. It's a bit stilted in comparison to the more modern Mario Kart games, obviously, especially since the trick system was introduced 3 years after this game's original release, but the track design and feel of the game more than make up for it. This game's reputation precedes itself. I've heard stories from multiple corners of the internet of the download play lobbies that the boys would do during recesses and lunch, and to be honest, I get the love. It is nostalgia talking for most of those stories, but it's nostalgia that isn't misplaced in my opinion. Cooking Mama was a high priority for me to play. It was quite literally the cooking game on the Nintendo DS, and it's not hard to see why, to be honest. Mama is really nice, the music in this game, and for the entire series in general, is calming yet exciting, and the gameplay is oddly relaxing while also being complicated enough to feel rewarding when you do get it exactly right. It's simple, and it's charming, and I love it. Junior high school would mark a point in my life where I got really into Tetris. Like, really into Tetris. I gathered my classmates from comp sci to play games of Tetris Friends before that shut down, so getting Tetris DS was a no-brainer for me. And besides the usual Tetris mode, Tetris DS is filled with a crazy amount of content that'll keep your attention for hours, and I love it. I can fully, really, truly appreciate this game a lot more now that I'm older, but I must confess that younger me just played Standard Marathon and ignored the rest. It wasn't all just DS games that would play on my 3DS, it was also the hundreds of homebrew applications and games made by the community that were fully available for free that I also grabbed. There were reports of different games, fully original creations, mods for games, meme shit, and full-on remakes of already existing games that were fitted to 3DS hardware. And that was mesmerizing to see. There was so much creativity in every single thing posted onto what would become my hub for 3DS homebrew, the GBA temp forums. I am a humongous lurker over there. I've never made an account, I pop in there to get some interesting homebrew, and then I leave. But the community seems so damn open and wonderful, and the people who post our amazing work there are beyond talented. So, Virtual Console, right? I could only emulate the games that Nintendo had published on the eShop, and as such I couldn't, say, play Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga for the GBA through the Virtual Console emulator. Psyche, yes I can! This is New Super Injector, a PC program that essentially takes a ROM and shoves it down into a virtual console file that you run on your 3DS. I used it to get as many games as I could on my 3DS that weren't available on the eShop. While I enjoy the emulators available through homebrew devs, Nintendo's own emulators just hit the spot in a lot of areas. I did use it mainly for GBA games because I was really obsessed with that console's games, but it works with a bunch of other consoles, allowing you to emulate games through an emulator made by the guys who actually made those consoles. After I essentially finished Mario Kart 7, I yearned for more Mario Kart content. But again, no Switch. I couldn't go play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to go get more tracks and characters. But then, a little guardian angel came down in the form of CTGP7. If you're an avid Wii homebrew guy, CTGP will be like an old friend to you. And it's basically the same here on 3DS. New tracks, new characters, new music, basically new mechanics, the whole shebang, alongside bringing things back from Mario Kart DS like the mission system. The UI that's not directly taken from Mario Kart 7 is a bit of an immersion breaker, but it's a worthy trade-off for essentially unlimited tracks from multiple other Mario Karts, multiple other kart races like Crash Team Racing, and fully original tracks made entirely by the community. It's a good mix between remakes and stuff that I feel will fit amazingly in an actual Mario Kart game. It was also around this time that I was trying my hardest to find out how to record footage for the 3DS without buying a 3DS capture card. Those things are going extinct and they're hella expensive. So, being a broke teenager, I had to find a different way to record. Enter SnickerStream, which was essentially just streaming the visuals from the 3DS over to my PC via Wi-Fi. Fun fact, the GPU of the 3DS, while pretty optimized, can't do streaming that well. Most consoles can't. They're already trying to play the game and make it look good. Couple that with the visuals going over Wi-Fi and, oh my god, low frame rates and low quality. For most games to work just fine. It's actually where most of this video's footage has been coming from if you haven't noticed, but good lord. So now I was walking around with a homebrew 2DS, having fun with it, enjoying it, playing with other friends at school who still have 3DSs, and download playing with them. And even using it to make a video out of it back in the day. Don't go watch that video, I don't really like it. But then all of that would change one fateful May afternoon in 2022. It broke. A pencil. A fucking pencil in my backpack had pierced the screen in just such a way that the display was completely fucked. It was repairable, but I had no money and I didn't know where to start. This device that had been in my life for about 6 years, that had defined my childhood for an entire summer and beyond, was just gone. Boy, that kind of fucked me up. Not for long, it wasn't that deep. But every time I saw someone talk about the 3DS online, I would always reach for my 2DS, only to then realize that it's unusable. And so, it lingered in my house once more. I would end up giving the battery to my older brother since his new 3DS battery had begun to swell. And then, I removed the SD card and fully formatted it. From then on, it just became an SD card for my Wii homebrew. No more 3DS for me, I guess. Until it's summer 2023 and I was out of high school. My dad had just set me up with a job and I was doing that for about a month at this point. Great job, by the way. Loved working there. Anyway, that was my first experience having actual money in my bank account. Like, real big money. Like money that could buy me things. Like a Switch Lite. Never had a Switch before, wanted to hop on that before the Switch 2 or whatever was announced. I enjoyed that, that was a nice experience for the summer. But more importantly, I would order a new 3DS LL. See, I had learned of this proxy auction site called Buy-e, which would let me bid on auctions in Japan or my little idiot box back in Canada. And since the prices were pretty reasonable, I bought that 3DS LL. It got shipped and I spent the rest of the day homebrewing it in Japanese to then switch it to a region-free English console. And equipped with an SD card that was bigger than 4 gigabytes, I would dive deeper into the 3DS homebrew scene. We're doing this in a rapid fire round, most of these are pretty small. First off, Arctic Base. This is a much more recent homebrew program that allows you to essentially use your 3DS as a ROM for Citra in order to play your games. Think SnickerStream, but instead of streaming the visuals, it's streaming the game data over to your computer. Next, NetPass, Wi-Fi StreetPass essentially. You pick an area and it connects you to other NetPass users and give you free StreetPasses. With the amount of people who have their 3DS going down in recent years, this one's a necessity. Classic Cube, it's just Minecraft Classic. There are some servers, you can go play on them, and it's nothing really that special. Sonic Mania 3DS, a wonderful port of Mania onto this system. It's my preferred way of playing it. It is just awful to record through SnickerStream. Look at these frames. Satella Zone, I didn't have my 3DS around the time when Nintendo Zone was open, so this was my first experience with it. I apparently did not miss too much. Sonic Robo Blast 2. The game's fun, I like it, it's just I don't really enjoy playing it with the circle pad, but that's more of a hardware problem. And finally, Pretendo and Reverse, 2 fan servers to restore functionality to both 3DS Nintendo Network and Miiverse. Pretendo is doing pretty good these days. Reverse is currently down, but they're trying to merge with Pretendo, so keep an eye on those two. And I was trying out a bunch of new games in this time frame, just to finally try them out for the first time. As an avid Minecraft enjoyer, I obviously wanted to try out Minecraft New 3DS Edition as soon as I had the chance. I was extremely excited when it got announced at the Nintendo Direct since I was still a Nintendo head by that time, and then I lost all my excitement when it got revealed as a new 3DS exclusive. And I had a 2DS, so whoops, can't play that. Until now, and I mean, it's fine. It's extremely bare bones as to be expected from the 3DS, but it still works enough. It's obviously got a lot of caps and limitations as you would expect from this little brick of a console, and those do fly in the face of making sure this game is the experience you would expect from everyone's favorite block game, but if you can push past those, you can get an experience that you can kind of fuck with, honestly. And the modding scene for this game is actually really active. There's a lot of cool mods and add-ons available for free. But like besides mods, unless you're like really interested in what Minecraft 3DS Edition feels like, I wouldn't recommend grabbing this. The camera controllers on the little nub. Ew. Sonic Generations has always been one of my favorite platformers. The HD version on 360 and PS3 is in my top games of all time. I love it so much. and as such, going into Generation 3DS, I had really high expectations. High expectations that subsequently were not reached because I don't think this was really worth my time. It's fine, it's just the reputation of a HD version gave me a false sense of security when it came to this one, and like, I can have fun with the 2.5D platformer here. If I really want to go play 2D Sonic, I'm gonna go play Mania, I'm sorry. Cooking Mama 4! I was excited to play this one, mainly because if you watch MCYT in 2019, you couldn't escape this damn menu music. And it's a bop, may I add, but like, it's just Cooking Mama again. It's fine. I quite like Kitchen Magic, but it's just a rerun of a formula that's already been tried and tested, just with a bunch of new recipes and minigames. I already had such a wonderful time playing Superstar Saga through New Super Injector that I began to start looking for the rest of the games in the franchise. I didn't originally follow good Partners in Time, I do now, I love it a lot, so I skipped straight to Bowser's Inside Story, which had a remake directly on 3DS. And I've been playing that for the better part of a couple of years, my save file's still pretty deep. The parts of a game where you're playing as Bowser are really well put together, and his battles are just as fun as the brothers' own battles. The environments both in and out of Bowser are extremely detailed in both of the versions available, and the music is still an absolute banger. I personally prefer the Partners in Time battle theme to the Bowser's Inside Story one, but this one's a banger nonetheless. Definite pickup for any 3DS owner, bar none. And that's basically where my 3DS sits today. It collects dust on the occasion, but emulating this thing doesn't hit the same as just picking it up and playing with it. So, I usually prefer to just actually grab it off my desk and crack it open and relive the childhood experiences I used to have when I originally had my 2DS in 2006. The Nintendo 3DS means a lot to me, but it's not just about the games, in my opinion. It's about what this console represents for me. It represents this channel. It represents me finally taking YouTube seriously. It represents the days on the playground excited for Nintendo at E3. It represents my hype for the Switch. It represents my first real console gaming experience online. It represents my friends from elementary school, junior high school, and high school. It represents a younger, more naive me. I don't think I have a childhood without the 3DS, and the 3DS is my childhood, and for that I'm grateful. The 3DS kind of changed my life in the most corny way. I can only assume it changed yours too. If I was you, and I had one in my drawer just collecting dust doing nothing, I'd get a new battery, that thing might be swelling, charge it, and play it again. You won't regret it. I promise. Unless you've lost a stylus, in which case, I can't really help you there, I'm really sorry. Hey, thanks for watching. Just a few things that I want to quickly say so we can wrap up this whole video into a nice little bow. First off, subscribe and like if you did enjoy the video. It helps a lot. Maybe even join my Discord if you're interested. We'd like to talk about things in there. Second, if you want to find a 3DS to hack or just to have again, your best bet is probably just going to be looking for it on either eBay or Buy. Unless you're American, in which case you're just going to be only be able to look through eBay. Japan Post is no longer shipping stuff to the US due to the tariffs. Sorry. Third, if this video got you thinking about hacking the 3DS you already have, you'll learn how to do that from the website 3ds.hacks.guide, and only 3ds.hacks.guide. You shouldn't be using any video tutorials, those things get outdated very, very fast. If you're looking for things to do with your newly hacked 3DS, you can go to wiki.hacks.guide, and there's a little 3DS section that will show you some stuff that I probably didn't discuss today. And if you ever get stuck or run into problems or run out of things to do with your 3DS, the Nintendo Homebrew Discord is open to discuss such things, so the link to that place is also in the description and the pinned comment. If you feel so inclined as well, you can support me monetarily through Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/META64. Also this video is going out after YouTube's dropped their new hype feature, and I'm slightly curious about how that works, so I don't know, hype this video if you enjoyed it. Again, thank you so very much for watching. Hopefully it won't take me forever to make the next video. I'll see you soon.